Hi, I'm writing because your blog used to post stuff that sounded like actual life, not creepypasta, and I don't know where else to put this without sounding like I'm trying to start something. I live alone in a small apartment building, and I work a regular office job. I'm not into ghosts, and I don't have a history of weird experiences. The only reason I bought an automatic feeder was because my cat, Miso, started waking me up earlier and earlier for breakfast. I wanted a consistent routine. The feeder is the kind with a plastic hopper, a bowl, and a little motor that drops kibble when it's scheduled. It connects to an app over Wi-Fi. In the app, you can set scheduled meals, and you can also hit a button to dispense a small portion manually. The feeder makes a very specific sound when it runs. A dry click, then a short whir, then kibble rattling down into the bowl. Miso learned that sound immediately. My setup was simple. 2 scheduled feedings a day, one in the morning and one at night. I also set a third tiny one right around midnight because I'm a light sleeper and I thought it would keep him from trying to pry open cabinet doors in the middle of the night. That part worked at first. I'd hear the click, whir, rattle, then Miso would crunch for a minute, and I'd go right back to sleep. The first weird thing was that I started hearing only part of the sound, not the full cycle. I would hear the click, but no whir and no kibble. At first I assumed the motor was sticking. The next morning the bowl was empty and Miso was acting hungry, so I checked the feeder. The hopper had plenty of food, nothing looked jammed. I manually dispensed a portion from the app while standing right next to it, and it worked normally. That night I stayed up on purpose and watched it. When the scheduled time hit, it clicked. No whir, no kibble. Just a click, like a relay switching, then silence. Miso ran over like he always did, looked into the bowl, and looked up at me. I gave him a little food by hand and figured the schedule was misfiring. The next morning I opened the app to change the midnight feed and saw something that made me pause. The activity log had a record that said manual dispense, time-stamped at the same time as the click. I hadn't touched my phone. I had been sitting on my couch with my phone face down on the coffee table. The log also showed the normal scheduled feeds earlier that day, and those were fine. I changed my password, enabled the extra sign-in step, and changed the feeder's Wi-Fi settings. I also unplugged it and plugged it back in. I'm not a tech person, but I'm not helpless either. My first thought was someone got into my account, like some dumb prank or a mistake. That night, the click happened again. Same thing. Click, no whir, no kibble. Miso ran to it, stared into the empty bowl, then did something he had never done before. He walked straight past the kitchen and down the short hallway and sat in front of the hall closet door. That closet door stays shut. It's a plain interior door with a knob that sticks a little if you don't turn it all the way. Inside is a stack of storage bins, my vacuum, some coats, and a couple boxes I haven't unpacked since I moved in. It's not where I keep food. Miso has never cared about it. He sat with his front paws together, ears forward, and he stared at the crack under the door like he was waiting for something to come out. Not playful, not skittish, just fixed. When I called his name, he didn't look back. I got up, walked over, and stood next to him. He didn't move. I opened the closet door. Nothing happened. He didn't rush in like a cat exploring. He just leaned forward, sniffed once, and then sat back down, still facing the opening. I turned on the hall light and checked the closet. Nothing knocked over. No sign of a mouse, no smell. I even pulled the bins out and looked behind them because I was thinking maybe there was a bug or something making noise I couldn't hear. There was nothing. I shut the door, and he immediately put his face close to the crack again. The app log the next morning showed another manual dispense at the exact time of the click. Not scheduled feed, not error, not jam. Manual, but no food came out. The kibble level in the hopper had not changed. At this point, I started documenting things. I took screenshots of the app log. I wrote down when I heard the click. I started checking the bowl right away after the click. Every time it was empty, every time the log said manual dispense, and every time, after checking the bowl, Miso would go to that closet door. There was a pattern to it that I can't ignore. If the feeder made the full normal cycle with the whir and rattle, Miso would eat and then groom himself and settle down. On the nights when it was only the click, he would do his closet routine. It wasn't random. He only did it after the midnight click. I removed the midnight scheduled feeding entirely to see if it would stop. That night, at midnight, the feeder still clicked. There was no schedule set for that time. I checked the app immediately, and it added a new manual dispense entry, again at midnight, again without me touching anything. Miso ran to the feeder, saw nothing, then went to the closet door and sat. I tried unplugging the feeder before bed. I unplugged it from the wall and set the plug on the counter so I'd know for sure it was out. At midnight, I heard the click anyway. It did not come from the kitchen. It came from the hallway, close to the closet door. That's when I stopped thinking it was an app issue. Miso also changed, not in a dramatic way, but in a way that made my stomach stay tight all day. He started hovering near the hallway in the evening instead of curling up on the couch. He would nap facing the closet. If I closed the bedroom door, he would paw at it until I opened it so he could watch the hall. When I went to work, I started leaving a phone recording app running in the hallway, mostly because I wanted to prove to myself it was a mechanical sound and not just house settling. The recording picked it up. You can hear the apartment's usual background: fridge hum, distant plumbing, a car passing outside. Then at midnight, a single click, very sharp like a plastic button. Then you hear Miso's nails on the laminate as he runs down the hall. Then he sits, and you hear nothing else except his breathing. The next part is hard to describe without it sounding like I'm reaching. I'm not saying I heard voices or anything, but in the minutes after the click, there would sometimes be a very faint sound, like fabric shifting on the other side of the closet door. Not a scratch, not a thump. More like a coat sleeve moving when you brush past it. It was inconsistent. Some nights nothing, some nights that faint shift. I called the feeder company's support line and went through the normal stuff. They had me reset it, update firmware, rebind it to the app. They asked if anyone else had access to my account. They asked if the device was near other electronics. They said the log shouldn't show manual dispenses unless someone triggered it or if there was a corrupted schedule. I told them I had removed all schedules except the morning and night feeds, and that the extra sign-in was on. They offered to replace the unit. I took the replacement. I set it up. New feeder, same app account, same Wi-Fi. For 2 days it behaved normally. I started to feel embarrassed for how worked up I'd gotten. Then the third night at midnight, the new feeder clicked. No whir, no kibble. The app log added, manual dispense. Miso went to the closet. I didn't open the closet that time. I don't know why, I just didn't want to. I sat on the floor at the end of the hallway where I could see both the kitchen and the closet door. Miso sat a foot from the crack. The hallway light was on. Everything looked ordinary. The click happened again a little later. Not at a scheduled time, not at a time I had set. Just another single click. Same sound from the hallway. Miso's ears twitched, but he didn't move. He leaned forward like he was listening. I checked the app and it showed another manual dispense, but it listed the feeder as the source. That made no sense because the feeder was in the kitchen and it had not run. There was no whir recorded on my hallway audio, and there was no kibble in the bowl. After that, the system of it tightened up, like whatever was happening settled into rules. The first rule, the click came at midnight, even if the feeder was unplugged. The second rule, the app log would record a manual dispense at the same time. The third rule, if I opened the closet door right after the click, Miso would not go inside. but he would sit in the doorway and refuse to turn his back on it until I closed it again. I tested the last part because I needed to understand if it was just a cat being a cat. On a night when the click happened, I opened the closet and held it open with my foot. Miso stood up, tail low, and moved to the threshold. He wouldn't cross it. He wouldn't look away from the back of the closet. He stayed like that until my legs started cramping. When I finally shut the door, he sat down facing it again like it was his job. I moved the feeder into my bedroom one night, thinking if the click is the feeder, it should follow the device. I put it on a towel by my dresser. Midnight came. The click happened in the hallway anyway. The app logged a manual dispense. The feeder in my bedroom did nothing. Miso got off my bed, walked past the feeder without even looking at it, and went to the closet door. I started sleeping with my bedroom door closed and Miso in the room with me. After the midnight click, he would throw himself at the door until I opened it. Not constant scratching, more like urgent, repeated impacts with his shoulder and paws. Once I opened it, he would sprint to the closet and sit. I tried blocking the hallway with a baby gate I had left over from when my sister visited with her dog. Miso jumped it easily. I tried putting a folded towel along the bottom of the closet door to close the crack. He pawed at it until it bunched up and the crack was visible again. The app logs kept building. Every day there was a manual dispense entry at midnight. Some days there were additional manual dispenses clustered close after midnight, spaced a few minutes apart. Always manual, never scheduled, never an error. The amount dispensed listed in the log was the standard portion size, like a real dispense. But the kibble level in the hopper stayed the same on the mornings after these nights. It wasn't dropping food somewhere else. The machine wasn't running. The sound wasn't coming from it. My phone started showing feeder notifications I didn't enable, like a push alert that a manual dispense happened, while my phone was in my hand and I was looking at something else. The alert would pop up and vanish when I tapped it, like it was never there. But the log entry would be there when I opened the app. I know this makes it sound like I'm obsessed with an app, but what got dangerous was Miso. He stopped eating normally. He would eat the morning and early evening meals, but he would leave some behind and then sit in the hallway earlier and earlier. Around midnight, he would be completely locked in, pupils wide, body stiff. After the click, he would press his nose to the closet door so hard his whiskers bent. He started making a small chattering sound under his breath, like when cats watch birds outside, except there was nothing to see. One night after the click, I heard that faint fabric shift sound from inside the closet, clearer than before. Miso responded by ramming the door with his shoulder, hard enough that the knob rattled. I grabbed him around the middle and pulled him back. He twisted and tried to claw forward. I've had him since he was a kitten, and he's never acted like that toward a door. The next day I took everything out of the closet in full daylight. I emptied the bins, shook out the coats, checked every shoe, every box. I looked for loose vents, gaps, anything. The back wall was solid. The floor was clean. There was nothing in there that should cause a sound, and nothing that would attract him. That night, the click came again at midnight, and I swear it sounded closer, like it was on the other side of the closet door instead of in the hallway. The app logged a manual dispense. Miso sat down and stared at the crack like he was waiting for the bowl to fill on the other side. I put my ear to the door. I heard nothing at first. Then I heard a soft, deliberate tap from inside the closet, like a fingernail on wood. Just once. Then silence. I backed away and sat on the floor, and Miso didn't move. He stayed there until morning. I don't know what the point is supposed to be. I don't know why the system uses the feeder's cue, but it is using it. It's keeping time. It's leaving records. It's training my cat to go to that door. I tried staying at my friend's place for a couple nights and bringing Miso with me. I didn't bring the feeder. At midnight, there was still a click. Not the same acoustics, but the same sharp plastic click. Miso ran to my friend's hall closet and sat in front of it. He had never been in that apartment before. He didn't explore. He went straight there like he'd lived there. My friend thought it was a coincidence until the second night. Same thing. Midnight click, Miso to the closet. I checked my phone, and the feeder app still logged a manual dispense at midnight, even though the feeder was unplugged back at my place and I was miles away. I came back home because I didn't want to dump this on someone else and because I didn't know what it would do if I kept running. The logs are still happening. The click is still happening. Miso is still doing his post-click routine. I've stopped opening the closet. I've stopped trying to catch it. I keep the feeder unplugged now because I don't want anything else in my apartment responding to a schedule I didn't set. But every night at midnight, there is still one click somewhere between the hallway and that door, and the app still writes down that I did it. I'm sending this because if the blog is still archived somewhere, maybe someone will recognize the pattern. A cue with no reward, a record that says I acted when I didn't, and an animal that treats one closed door like it's the only thing in the world. Miso is sitting in the hallway as I type this. The closet door is closed. The house is quiet. I can't tell if he's waiting for the click or if whatever is behind that door is waiting for him to be there when it happens again.